Hi, I'm Trevor.
And I'm Kyle, and this week Trevor caught up on cinema. Had Trevor watch Salt Lake City Punk. I actually wasn't as prepared for this one. Sorry. What year did this come out?
Oh, so I have to tell you, this came out in 1999. However, it premiered in 1998 in Germany.
Oh, wow.
Um, it's directed by a fellow by the names of James Merendino.
Mm-hmm.
I don't recognize anything else from his filmography. However, punk, like just the punk movement in general, the punk cultural movement, seems to be very near and dear to his heart. I guess he did spend some time in Salt Lake City in his youth.
Okay.
So this is probably a personal story on some level.
Interesting.
But yeah, he seems to thrive in the indie scene, being as he's probably a legit punk person. That makes sense. Doesn't want to sell out or buy in, as a certain character in this movie says
So
later
good, yeah.
on. But the best character in this movie, if you ask me.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
So Kyle, why did you select Salt Lake City Punk for me to catch up on?
I chose it because, I think the main reason why I chose it is just to kind of dip your toe into the water of 80s punk, because I want to have you watch Sid and Nancy. But also because I say that this is Matthew Lillard's best movie. Because
Among a sea of classics.
yeah, he doesn't have too many movies that I care for. But I've heard people talk shit about, oh, he's so stupid, he's obnoxious. I'm like, this is a movie where he can actually harness it. Like, this is a movie where he can kind of channel that obnoxious style of acting into a youthful person. Also because when we did Mandy, I don't think it's dropped yet, but we talked about how there's a certain scene in there where Nicolas Cage gets to quote unquote cage out, and it actually works out very well. It's not a silly scene. It's actually a pretty good scene, and that made me think of this. I'm like, okay, well, let's think about Matthew Lillard in this context.
Yeah. I can't help but think of them as kind of similar tools, like similar acting style, in the sense that they're both very specialized tools.
Yes,
If you bring them onto your project,
you're getting
A,
something.
you know what you're getting. You're getting something. And B, you should be prepared for it. So,
Yeah.
like, if you hire Matthew Lillard to headline your film, you as the director very much should know what you're getting into. And if you didn't, then you're not doing your job. You're getting Jim Carrey rubber face antics and histrionics.
Yeah.
Like, it's what he does. His Rubberman shtick can be very obnoxious, but in this movie, it felt very appropriate.
See, I can't watch Scream. I can't stand it, but more so
After he gets stabbed, oh my god.
it's so funny. Like we use it as a joke when we're drinking and we're like, you want another shot? I'm feeling a little woozy here.
I'm feeling a little wheezy,
I'm like,
man.
yeah. I can't stand that movie, really. But yeah, I wanted you to see Matthew Lillard give a pretty good performance. So I'll give a rundown of the movie real quick. It's not super complicated. Steve-O and his friend Heroin Bob, who doesn't do heroin, have decided to they've just graduated high school, and they've decided to take the year off as a way to rebel. They're gonna waste their time, basically, and they do so very well. They have a loft. Is that what kind of apartment they have? Something.
It looks like Pee-wee's Playhouse Punk
Yeah,
Edition.
yeah.
Like the architecture, like the actual structure of the interior of the building, actually made me think of Pee-wee's Playhouse. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, so they've decided to just not do anything, and we're just kind of introduced to a bunch of people that are in Steve-O's circle, an extended friendship family circle, who he's hanging out with in Salt Lake City. Takes place in Salt Lake City, by the way. Salt Lake City Punk.
1985.
1985, yes, that's important as well. And this is pretty much Steve-O coming to terms with this lifestyle isn't going to work out. So, like, there's no longevity in this lifestyle. Not that he's doing a shit ton of drugs. I mean, he likes to smoke pot, he likes acid, he likes to drink, but it's pretty standard stuff. And his friend Heroin Bob. I think that I know that you said that. Is it Mike? What's his name? Shooter McGavin. What's his real name? I can never.
I think it's Chris McDonald.
I think that's right. It's some kind of McDonald.
Best character in the movie, if you ask me.
See, I really liked Heroin Bob. I liked when Bob was on screen. I found him very entertaining.
Heroin Bob, the walking paradox.
Yeah. No, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, an important thing to note about the presentation of this film is that very typical in the late 90s non-linear narrative. There's a lot of John Cusack directed to camera talking.
A lot.
And the story's delivered to us in vignettes from Steve-O's perspective. And it's kind of jumbled. It kind of comes together the way your actual memory works, where it's like it's in fragments, it's all out of order. And it's like listening to an old man ramble, where it's like, I don't know what this contributes to the whole, but I guess I'll keep listening, and then eventually it does. But for the first half of the movie, it's just kind of like, cool story, Bob, or cool story, Steve.
Yeah, there's a certain sequence in here. I think it helps with the story, but there was a certain sequence in here when they go to the German guy, Hugo Stieglitz.
Hugo Stieglitz.
Yeah, that actor. I just watched Atomic Blonde. He's in there as well. I can't think of his name. Something German.
Till Schweiger, I think.
When they go to his house, that's a really long, drawn out sequence. I'm like, good lord, just to introduce. So yeah, this movie actually does something that I don't like in movies, is where you introduce your characters by introducing your characters. They do it
out of order too.
Oh yeah,
because we get multiple introductions, but from the perspective of a drunk person at a party. So
okay.
It's like he doesn't know that he's repeating himself.
Yeah, that's actually funny. I'm going to have to rewatch this now. I should have rewatched it.
It was kind of clever, because it's like a half an hour into the movie, and it's like, I already met Bob. I already met Trish.
Yeah.
It's like, thanks for reintroducing them, Steve-O. But
so yeah, maybe we should introduce the characters, because as we go along, they come into play, but it jumps around quite a bit. So his friend Heroin Bob doesn't live with his dad anymore. Had a pretty bad situation with his father. It's his best friend, and they live together. Trish is Bob's more or less girlfriend. I don't think they like labels, but they are going steady, as it were. I don't think there is an exchange of bodily fluids there. I don't think that they're having sex. I think that this is a very emotional and intellectual bond that they have. Or
I could see that.
Or imprisonment on Bob's.
I mean, he's very latched onto her. It sounds like she's receptive to it, but yeah, I don't know if the physical element has entered into the picture.
She's kind of a townie. She's older than all of them. She's like in her 30s, I think. Like they're all supposed to be fresh out of high school.
That's another thing that I mean, we'll get into it later, but this social circle that they all inhabit. I mean, I've touched social circles akin to this before, and I noticed that the age range of the people in the room tends to be all over the place. And the thing to note is that these characters are self-labeling as punk / anarchist.
Yeah.
And part of being punk anarchist is not liking labels. But the thing that kind of brings all these characters together, because they don't all share the same ideologies and whatnot, but the thing that really brings them all together, and this really becomes clear towards the end of the movie, is they're all outcasts. Like, they're all outsiders. They're all just misfits, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, she is a little bit older. She's also a business owner, so
yes.
She's actually doing something with her life.
Yeah. And
then Mark, I think... at one point even remarks that he's the oldest guy in the room, and he's probably like 40, if that.
I would say, yeah.
And then Jason Segel's character's...
yeah. I forget he's in here.
He's just graduating from high school, whereas Bob and Steve are both college graduates, by the way.
Oh, they're college graduates. Oh, that's right. They decided not to
Jason Segel is like 4 years behind them, so we have a very young person, we have full-grown adults, we have business owners, we have shithead college graduates. It's a very wide range of ages.
That's why they're rebelling. I forgot, but then why do they have to? Oh, because they have to go to the next state over to get alcohol that isn't less than like 5%, or that isn't less than like 0.5%. I thought it was because they were underage. No, it's because the alcohol sucks there.
Yeah, so we got Bob, we got Trish. They're hooked up.
Mm-hmm.
Steve-O has a regular lady, not like an official girlfriend, but just a lady that he fools around with.
They don't like labels, you know.
They have a thing. They have an arrangement.
They have an arrangement.
Parts of this movie felt very relevant to 2018 because I have friends who have these arrangements, and I've seen similar results to what happens with the two of them as a result of it. But Sandy, Sandy has a thing about she has a thing about death. Not sure that's healthy, but okay. And yeah, Jason Segel's like their nerdy buddy, who we don't learn until the end of the movie really that he's quite a bit younger than everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Another walking paradox. He looks like a total dweeb, but he's like the most vicious fighter in the group, and it's funny. I feel like that's a callback in How I Met Your Mother.
That's what I was gonna say. His
character is from Minnesota or whatever,
uh-huh.
And there's like a whole episode about them like feeling, I don't know, emasculated, like they need to get in a fight or something to prove their manhood, and then it's revealed that his character on that show is like
a badass,
an unbelievable badass,
yeah.
But he's too good-natured to actually do anything with it. But then it actually comes into play, and it's like he's a complete monster.
Also, I think he says something about botany. He's like, he wants to be a botanist. He's like, those fuckers are like tearing down the rainforest. I'm like, well, he actually wants to be an environmental...
Yeah, that's right. He's like an environmental lawyer on that show. So that had to have been intentional. I forgot about that.
So yeah, we can dive into the story here. That's pretty much our main group, but everything's going to center around Steve-O and Bob.
I'm sorry. I want to do the introduction to the film.
Okay, go for it.
So like, first scene I think is just narration over black, just Steve-O rambling about hating rednecks because they're everything that is America, and fuck America. And then we just get a couple of good old boys drinking out at a truck, and Steve-O and Bob run up behind him and start beating on him with some 2x4s and like pipes, and then they run off direct to the camera and sex and violence for 3 minutes. Do you know who sings this song?
No, I don't.
I don't either, but the lyrics consist of nothing but sex and violence.
It's probably some
sex and violence.
It's probably some underground
sex and violence.
It's probably some underground punk band from the 80s that never made it big, but like they were a huge influence on like these other bands, but like they never really made it. Probably one of those.
Well, they wouldn't be punk if they made it.
Exactly. It's performed by The Exploited. That is the name of the band.
Very appropriate.
The name of the song is called Sex and Violence.
I thought it was Violence and Sex, Kyle. I could be wrong. But yeah, that plays over the opening credits, which are kind of cute, very punk rock in their aesthetic, where it's a lot of like paper cuttings and like collages. It looks like something that's handmade / done in MS Paint or something. It's just weird images. Some stuff that actually appears later in the film, like there's a lot of Reagan with swastikas on his face.
Yeah,
'cause it's 1985. Anyway, I think that brings us directly to like introducing Heroin Bob.
Yeah, so Heroin Bob got his name because he's afraid of needles. He doesn't do heroin. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this real quick. Heroin Bob, the character Bob, he's mentally ill. He needs treatment. He's got some problems, especially when he drinks. He's violent, but not towards people. He's just violent towards himself, I guess is the way to look at it.
Self-destructive.
Very self-destructive. So is this where he punches a mirror, if I'm not mistaken?
Yeah, Steve-O, who, as we mentioned, serves as the narrator and our guide throughout the entire story.
He's going to be
entire story is framed from his perspective,
narrating and breaking the fourth wall throughout.
Yeah, doing the John Cusack routine.
Yeah.
He, if I remember right, he talks about Bob, and he's explaining that Bob, by the way, is dressed like Travis Bickle from
Very
Taxi
much.
Driver throughout
Exactly.
the entire movie. He's got the army coat and the mohawk throughout the entire movie, basically.
I never realized
he's
that.
He's also a very tiny guy. Has a bit of a Bronson Pinchot face going. He doesn't look like a scary guy other than the mohawk and the army jacket. So he's very much putting up a front. Like he's meant to look like a scary punk rocker guy, but inside apparently he's just a softie.
Very much.
And he's very much Steve-O's sidekick in a lot of ways. But yeah, Steve-O says that he's not a very violent guy, which cuts directly, like his narration plays out directly over footage of Bob punching a mirror and severely cutting his knuckles open. And then I guess for the next 3 weeks, Bob doesn't do anything about the cut. He just like wraps it with a bandana, and they're at like a diner or something, and he's paying for his food with bloody bills because he still hasn't addressed the wound on his hand, and he passes out, and they have to take him to the hospital.
Very young adult move, by the way, because not only is he not going to the hospital because he is afraid of needles, also he has no health insurance. So yeah, he passes out, and they take him to the hospital, and the doctor's like undoing the disgusting. If this dude was standing next to me, I would move back. I'm like, just let him go through. I don't want him touching me with that hand. It's like green and black and red. Like, it looks disgusting. It's infected, to say the least.
I'm sure it smells wonderful.
Oh God. Does it smell south of cheese? So you'll have to help me with the plot. Like, you're gonna have to help me with the little bit more of the structure, because it has been a while since I've seen it enough times that I remember it pretty well. But the little details you'll have to help me with. Doesn't he like he's resisting needle basically to the point where they have to hold him down and actually inject him.
Yeah, when they bring him to the hospital, Jason Segel helps carry him. So we're introduced to him. His character's name is Mike, and again, he looks like George McFly, but like 6.5 feet tall.
I was just say like 6'4".
Yeah. And yeah, they're in the waiting room, and we have Steve-O, who has blue hair and has the whole Sid Vicious get up. Like he stands out in Salt Lake City for sure.
Very much.
And a steel chain necklace with a razor blade in it, I think.
I thought he had the little 25-cent heart locket things that you could get, but it might be a razor blade. These people.
I know he has a razor blade. He probably has a lot of accessories.
Yeah, there's too many to count.
That seems to be part of the aesthetic, is you need to accessorize. Anyway, they're in the waiting room, and we have this weird little exchange where I guess it's meant to show that even someone like Jason Segel, who aesthetically doesn't present any air of menace about him, like he's just talking with a little girl who's in the waiting room, and she's got a cut on her finger, and the mom just instantly says get the fuck away from me,
get away from him.
Not in those words, because they're very polite there.
He's sitting with Steve-O, so she's guilty by association at this point.
Exactly. But yeah, Bob, I guess he does not do needles, so they actually have to get 5 or 6 people to hold him down, and then they stick him with a sedative in his arm, and they have to put him in quarantine for a couple weeks because his hand bred a new virus or a new disease. It's
so gross. So Steve-O and what's his girlfriend's name again? Sandy. It just doesn't make sense. The name just doesn't make sense with how she doesn't present herself as a Sandy. I think.
Well, how do you think she ended up like that?
Yeah, no kidding. I think of Grease when I think Sandy. Oh, Sandy. So they go in. I thought this part was funny. The nurse lets him in, and he's taken electrical tape, because they're not going to let him have a marker or something. But he's taken electrical tape, and he's decorated the walls a little bit. He's got an anarchy symbol. And he just mentions the past, and that woman hates me, or that woman's gonna kill me, or something like that.
She doesn't flip him off. She just gives him a palm, an upward facing palm. It looks kind of like The Rock calling someone out, just bring it. The nurse, by the way.
Yeah.
This is kind of funny, Kyle, because that scene actually happens like 40 minutes later.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It does.
See, this is your like. You're caught up in the system, man.
Jesus.
This is your brain. This is your brain bringing order to the chaos and anarchy, man. Because that's the thing about the narrative in this movie, is that it's presented non-linear. So in sequence, that scene would probably come next. It actually happens much later. What actually comes right after Bob being sedated is Steve-O like reminiscing about the nature of Bob and how he and Bob like spent their immediate like post-college days together. I think actually when they were in college, because I think they were on the campus grounds when they had this conversation. But it's basically Steve-O like tripping on acid, laying on a rock like in the red square of the campus, and Bob just pacing around telling him about the evils of drugs.
Yeah.
And how it's like it'll mess you up, and like the way this shit is cut together, it's like very MTV montage style, where it's just like jump cut after jump cut after jump cut. And from the perspective of someone who's tripping on acid, I'm guessing that's pretty accurate. Or it's just like word salad being thrown at him. And also Bob is rambling. Like,
yeah, Bob
has no fucking clue what he's yelling about.
You know what I think, Bob? I think chemistry's the wrong fucking major for you. Like,
but yeah, this leads to a story, a tangent that it's like a Family Guy like cutaway gag almost.
Except it actually serves a purpose.
Exactly. It actually serves a purpose. This is the story about Sean and the acid incident. Do you remember this story?
Heartthrob Devon Sawa from that stupid movie with Jonathan Taylor Thomas where there's a bear. And Idle Hands, which is one of the worst movies I've ever had to sit through.
Oh, I never saw that, but
It's
I remember
not
it
good.
being advertised. That was like Seth Green?
Jessica Alba is in there.
Yeah, I think Seth Green's like a supporting member.
It's
of that
very
guy.
possible. Party Monster, put a pin in that.
Well,
So yes,
Macaulay Culkin?
yeah. Have you seen that?
No, but I've heard of it.
It's an interesting little thing there.
It's a thing.
I had a nightmare after watching it, but
Oh no.
so Devon Sawa has very, very spiky hair, almost like very, very tall spiky hair, and he's talking to a dude that looks kind of like Keanu Reeves. It's the guy who looks like Keanu Reeves from Independence Day.
Yeah, he's Randy Quaid's oldest son from Independence Day. Hey, Miguel!
Yeah, not Keanu Reeves. He's a mod. Now, mods are like Grease. These are the what's that stupid movie?
The Outsiders?
Outsiders, thank you. So, same idea as the Outsiders. You've got your squares.
Socias.
Yeah, socias. You got your squares, and he's a part of the square group. They all ride mopeds, which I find very funny. They're all wearing suits. They're all dressed really nice, but there's the one person from that group that shares a common interest with Devon Sawa. They're also their mom drives them to soccer practice apparently.
Yeah, I love the way that conversation ended. That was
your mom's still
beautiful.
driving us to soccer practice.
Well, and this is right after like another member of the mods like lashes out at Devon Sawa and is like threatening to like fight him or something, and then immediately after they do this drug deal for acid or whatever, like Devon Sawa's parting words are like, "Oh, your mom's driving us to soccer practice, right?" And he's like, "Yeah."
Yeah.
It's like, yep, bunch of young idiots.
Well, the story is that Devon Sawa has a whole lot of acid in his pants, and security guard from around there kind of puts it together. Devon Sawa is a bright red convertible Corvette speeding down the highway. Like, he's obviously going to get some attention from the authorities. So the security guard's like, "Hey, fuck, get over here!" And Devon Sawa starts running. He's in much better shape. As we've learned, he plays soccer. But he runs through a field that has, or an area that has sprinklers, and the sprinklers get the acid wet. If you don't know anything about acid, it's dissolved through your bloodstream. You put a little tab of it on your tongue. I think this is possible. I'm not sure if it is or not, but I think this is actually possible. That you can actually.
I don't know. I mean, I'd be the last person to ask about this stuff, but I think it is. I think it does work this way. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if it's absorbed through the skin.
If it's wet. If you just set it on your skin, it's probably not going to do anything. But if it's wet, it's very possible it can be absorbed through your skin. So maybe in just a little dose, it wouldn't be bad. But he has a shit ton of it, so he basically has an overload, like way too much. And they cut to he's back at his house, and he's talking to his mother. This is a funny scene.
It was.
He starts like chasing after his mom with a knife. Like, he's hallucinating. He's like, the devil's gonna get me.
He thinks she's a bull, as in the animal bull, because she's wearing a flower print dress with it is 1985.
Yeah.
It has very pointy shoulder pads in it, and he interprets this as a bull in the kitchen. So yeah, he has a very large knife that he's chasing her around the kitchen with. We get some really snappy editing here, where pretty intense shot of him swallowing the knife.
Yeah.
And then after all this mayhem, though, Bob finds him out on the front lawn sitting on a chair in the snow.
He's squatting. He's
squatting on the chair. It's like a stool. It's like not even a chair.
Yeah, it's almost as if he's playing "Don't Touch the Ground, It's Lava," and like
he does say something like that
yeah.
Like he's in the ocean and he'll drown if he gets off the chair. It's in the snow and he's not wearing snow gear, and Bob's just like,
how's it? He's like,
you were tripping balls.
So yeah, then the authorities show up and they take him away, and that's where Matthew Lillard he tells Matthew Lillard, Bob's been telling him this story. He's like, you can't be touching that stuff, man. He's like, Bob, maybe chemistry's not the best major for you, because this is the stuff you're going to be worried about.
Yeah. And Bob clearly has a thing about substance abuse, but he's not very good about managing that, at least in terms of booze. I'm
gonna go ahead and say it. There are two really good scenes. One that's really funny, and then one that's very emotional. And the funny one is when we get to the store out when they go to buy beer, the Mickeys.
Yeah.
Fuck, dude.
That was
every time. The whole scene is just hilarious. So who do we meet now?
I think the Bob in quarantine scene happens after the story.
Okay.
But if I remember right, this is when we get to meet Steve-O's parents, and this was Chris McDonald.
He's great.
Oh man, he was my favorite part of this movie. Every scene he was in, I was just like, oh my god, this guy's awesome.
He does that. He steals it.
He does. Shooter McGavin is not one to fuck with. Like, he will steal your thunder.
I don't think we meet. Do we meet? We don't meet his mom until he's having that scene where they're telling him that they're proud of him or whatever.
No, that's the scene.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, this is Steve-O rolling us even further back in time to when he's just graduating high school.
Mm-hmm.
And now at this point in his life, he had just a gigantic mohawk.
Huge.
Like a gigantic blue mohawk. And we're talking gigantic. Like, it's flopping around so savagely that, like, you can see the bald cap on his head, like, pulling at his temples. It looks kind of goofy. So, like, this is, like, him in, like, at the height of his punkness, I guess.
Well, yeah.
So we have a classic conversation here where it's a high-powered attorney father and a new age hippie mother, divorced by the way. Very important. It kind of spells out to you how this punk fella became a punk fella.
Yeah.
It's the two of them sitting him down and trying to guide him in his life, like the next big epoch in his life. Like, you just graduated high school, dad wants you to go to college, but mom keeps countering his momentum by saying, like, but we love you no matter what. Yeah. Like, we want you to be free. And I love the interplay between the parents here.
Yeah.
Because you can tell, like, he's just, like, trying not to, like, roll his eyes and just be like, shut up! Like,
at this point, it appears though he's been a later in the years divorcee child. Like, it's happened within middle school or high school. I don't know what that does to you. I don't know what that does to you emotionally. I don't know how that. I come from a my parents divorced when I was like 5, so it's just always been that way. So I'm pretty sure at this point he's already had to deal with enough that he's just tuning it out at this point. Clearly.
Well, I'd imagine it leads to a little bit of disillusionment, maybe some trust issues. Would kind of make sense that the gal that you shack up with, you have a arrangement with, because nothing is permanent and everything's bullshit, according to the punk philosophy.
Yeah.
punk anarchist philosophy.
We should mention Steve-O's philosophy at some point.
Yeah, I might have to defer to you on that, because he has too many words. Like,
he does.
I get the broad strokes, but some of these montages, it's just like, oh my god, like, I've been to college, I heard all this before, but I blocked it out.
Yeah.
I love, I think one of the first things that Christopher McDonald says to him when that scene starts is he's like, you graduated high school. Thank God. Just the timing of it. Like, perfect. And when that scene ends, by the way, Steve-O has a major outburst at the end of the scene.
Yeah.
Where his dad is an attorney, and he's very well spoken, and he presents a very good case as to why he should go to school and, make something of himself. And Steve-O pops up out of his chair and starts, gesticulating and shouting at both of his parents, saying, like, was it like truth and love are bullshit because look at you, your marriage dissolved so clearly, like honesty and love don't exist, like it's all bullshit, man.
Yeah.
It's that kind of speech, and his two parents just kind of have to take it, because he's not wrong on that point, but at the same time it's like, this is a young man that probably needs some guidance, but he's not ready to listen.
Not ready for it.
But the way this scene concludes is like, he stomps out of the room. Mom says like, oh, he's just like his dad, and his dad's like, yeah, he's gonna be a great attorney. But yeah, like the mom's like, yeah, he's just like his dad, complete fucking asshole. And like,
fuck you, dude.
And Christopher McDonald just looks at her sideways like, fuck you, dear.
Fuck you, dear. Well, no, I was actually gonna point out, he does some lawyering there. He's like, well, it actually doesn't work. Yeah. So.
Well, I was just about to say, that's like our first hint that, the thing that you're assigning a shameful label on, the thing that you're willfully distancing yourself from, does seem to be something that you work well with. Because yeah, he does a lot of lawyering, and in fact that scene you mentioned in the convenience store, it does kind of have that feel to it, where it's like he's presenting an argument and winning a debate that nobody expected to be having that day. But anyway,
I've walked in on some conversations like this before. I'm not gonna say who, but I've walked in, I'm like, just walk back out. I'm like, I'm not getting involved in this conversation.
Oh yeah, I think I may have been in the room for some of those, and it's like, you know what? Ain't nobody got time for that. Like, I don't have a dog in this race. Whatever, man.
Oh man. So yeah, he basically just tells them, fuck you, love you guys, but fuck you. I'm going to do my own thing. When do we get? I think we need to be introduced to Trish now. I think she's supposed to pop up here soon.
Well, we get there's an interlude in a mall.
Oh god,
it's basically just Steve-O talking direct to camera and telling us like, look at all these sheep, man. There's a bunch of fucking posers, so,
yes, huge. Now I had friends who were, I played in bands when I was in high school, so I've definitely bumped shoulders with these people. Yes, accusing people of being posers. Huge in the punk and the rock community. Being a poser is terrible. Yes, he's basically going off on posers.
Well, yeah, he's going off on posers. He's talking about how
he's also explaining the scene a little bit too.
Yeah, how he and Bob and a handful of other people are kind of like the only real, quote unquote, real, like punk people. And then there's people who adopted the punk aesthetic.
Yeah.
So they do it for fashion purposes and nothing else. And then he said there's people that take it a step further and like
They're
put
just
on
assholes.
a faux British accent, in his eyes, to get laid.
Yeah.
But yeah, poser is maybe the most important concept in the movie, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Just the concept of being disingenuous, of adopting a cultural aspect solely for some sort of gain.
Or for fitting in.
Yes, I want to fit in. To quote American Psycho. But yeah, this is like our first time we touch on that, and I think he ends this rant by saying, "I'm not a fucking hick."
Yeah.
And again, like I have friends who are part of like alternative cultural movements and stuff, and there is a lot of repetition among them of this concept of not wanting to be one of quote unquote them.
Yeah.
And we've seen this guy's parents. He's well off. Like his dad is trying to get him into Harvard.
Yeah.
And he actually has said direct to camera, like he was actually a good student despite trying not to be.
Yeah.
So he's a smart guy of means. So him becoming a punk is very much him like choosing that. It didn't find him, he found it, kind of.
Well, and it's interesting too is that they hate Nazis. Now
Yeah,
I do know
that comes up a little later, but yeah.
I believe it was the Sex Pistols that wore the swastika at one point. I think Johnny Rotten wore it as a symbol. I don't know what it was supposed to symbolize, but he wasn't a neo-Nazi. But actually interesting, Johnny Rotten is a fashion designer mostly now. He does I think he focuses more on clothing than anything else. And he's huge now from just drinking so much beer.
Well, I mean, I said it before we started recording, but punking is a young man's game. We all got to go to old at some point.
Johnny Rotten is still... Look him up. Look up some of his... He's still going strong. I have to admire the guy. He's still just a bitch. Like, he's... You better bring your... He's kind of like Seinfeld or like Russell Brand. Like, you better bring your A game. Like, don't ask him stupid shit. He's going to hand it right back to you. He's an interesting guy. But... Yeah, they don't like Nazis, and they beat the shit out of Nazis. I was remembering that being the opening scene, but no, it was the Hicks that they end up... maybe it was the Hicks are first.
It was Hicks first.
Okay.
Neo-Nazis come later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. During this whole rant about posers, like it started to dawn on me that this story was already starting to remind me of a lot of like the books I had to read in high school.
Mm-hmm.
Tex, The Outsiders, Catcher in the Rye especially, because Catcher in the Rye, the character Holden Caulfield has this word phony that he uses. And
Oh god, yeah.
he's a young man, and it's kind of that don't trust anyone over 30 kind of mentality, where like phony is the ultimate like hate label you can put on someone.
Yeah.
Where somebody's phony, like you don't associate with them, you can't trust them,
Well,
and nothing but bad comes from them. And poser may as well be a synonym for, phony.
being punk rock is just for people who don't have bills yet.
Yeah, that seems very accurate.
I'm fucking punk rock, dude. Yeah, you don't have you don't have student loans yet, bitch.
Well, there's even a part later in the movie where someone's talking to someone and they say, "You should get a job." Yeah, I tried, man. It's fucking hard.
They say it to Bob, I think. I remember that response now. Oh, that's funny.
When we're introduced to Trish, it's kind of she's introduced to us at the drunken party. But her actual introduction happens before that.
That's what I want to talk about.
She's brought up by name, and we do see her, but we don't know anything about her. We just know that she's important to Bob. So we go to
I'm sorry.
show.
I meant Sandy. We were introduced to Sandy. And Sandy and Trish kind of happen. Like Sandy comes first, then we're introduced to Trish.
Yeah, we go to a punk show
in a cave, apparently.
Yeah, it's some sort of cave in Utah. It's a British punk band that they come to Utah to play a show or something, and that's where we kind of meet Trish because we see that Bob's trying to hook up with her in the crowd. Matthew Lillard is sucking Sandy's face in the corner, and Jason Segel is hanging out with Til Schweiger. Til Schweiger being Mark, the East German fellow, their East German drug dealer friend.
Yeah. If you want to cut, I think a good 5, you could trim 5 minutes out of this movie, with like just taking out that whole montage, that whole scene with him.
I don't know. We'll get to that, but he has a fun line here at the show where he's talking to Mike, Jason Segel, and he throws this line out there. I don't understand you Americans. You're always looking for pain. Mm-hmm. And in his very Til Schweiger way, I don't understand you Americans. You're always looking for pain.
Bob, this is where Bob just looks back at him like,
the fuck you say?
Or I think he says something about Trish, like she's weird or something. He just like looks back at him and he's like, I gotta go. He's like, I gotta go into the music. This show looks awesome, by the way. But I wanted to mention Sandy. She's interesting because she is, some of the things she says to Steve-O, she's holding him back. She's kind of stoking the fire of his not wanting to move forward. She's kind of keeping him back. Like when eventually she cheats on him, it's like, quit being a pussy. Like he's like, why are you being like this? And she actually introduces herself by saying, if you were a man, you'd fuck me right here. Like they just start going at it like during this show.
Well, I think she was yelling at someone else before Steve-O, and he was just the one who jumped on her.
Yeah, pretty much. But yeah, so Bob, I like this scene because Bob is like getting into it. This show looks like a lot of fun. He's fucking getting into it, and he somehow he ends up on the stage, if I'm not mistaken, which is it's very common. There's a band I like called The Chariot. They're very chaotic, and they definitely had fans running on stage and jumping off, like a lot. That's basically what happens with Bob and the security guard. I guess they're not used to American way of punk shows. The security guard comes up and just starts whooping his ass.
Yeah, this bouncer, by the way, it's like apparently he never watched Roadhouse. It's like, you got to be nice first, man.
Yeah,
there's a progression that has to happen, and not only that, he's like, he didn't go to like police training or whatever, because he just starts slugging him in the stomach. Like, there's no jujitsu or holds or anything. It's just like whap.
I want to tell you a quick story. If you ever go to a show at El Corazon in Seattle, do not fuck around. Those security guards will lay you out. One of the security guard ladies, we went to Warped Tour the same year. And she was in the pit. I was on the front, like on the back end of it, like where everybody's at. I'm just trying to watch the show because that's the coolest place to be with the most air. And she ended up hitting me in the face because I was in the way. I shouldn't have been right there. She was real apologetic. She was nice. I saw her the next year. Some dude lit a joint next to us, and there's a bunch of kids. Like, there's a lot of young people at this show. So she's like, "Oh, it's real fucking cool, man. Smoking weed around kids. Put it out." And he's like, "No." So she punched it out of his mouth. So I'd seen her a couple times in Seattle, which is funny. She lives in Seattle. I've seen her getting off a bus. I'm like, "Oh, that's that chick who hit me in the face and punched that other guy." So I go to a show at El Corazon, and she's a fucking bouncer. Like, she's security at that place. She's not a super big chick. Like, she wasn't super big, but she could throw her fucking weight. But I remember it got out of hand at one point, and she dropped one of the other security guards on accident. Like, I just look over. She hit him in the throat, thinking it was somebody trying to get her. And he was like, doing the Bam Bam Bigelow and Major Payne, like, like can't breathe. And she's like, oh, like patting him on the back, like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. So if you ever go to Seattle and you go to a show at El Corazon, you do not act a fool, because they will take care of you.
Yeah, there's a 1 in 5 chance you will be struck.
Yeah, this guy could have worked at El Corazon. I saw them take a kid who weighed maybe 130 pounds. He was hanging from the rafters. As soon as he hit the ground, a linebacker just took him and like blocking sled pushed him through the door in the back, like just straight through the crowd.
Jeez, man,
they're not fucking
guys
around.
Gotta watch Roadhouse.
But then again, El Corazon's a small venue.
That should be a mandatory training for a bouncer. You gotta watch Roadhouse.
It's a small venue, and there's some pretty rowdy shows that happen, so they can't fuck around.
You know, like, hitting folks is not. That's not step one. Like, step one is restraint.
Yeah.
Step 2 is hit.
Not at El Corazon.
Not at El Corazon.
Oh man, you gotta fight fire with fire.
Speaking of which, we get a fun moment here where Mike, Jason Segel, takes his glasses off and hands them to Hugo Stieglitz.
Yeah.
And says, "I gotta go take care of something." And he charges the stage and starts beating the shit out of the bouncer.
Yeah.
Which then leads to Matthew Lillard charging the stage and just hitting a random person, because there's only really one combatant involved and 2 guys are on him already. So he's just like, "What? Why not? Everybody gets a taste." And then we're all hanging out at like some like quiet, just like hangout with the band, and everybody's cool.
we're back at Trish's, and that Bob is actually talking to the lead singer, and he's like, "So, like, what did you think of Salt Lake City?" And he's like, "Oh, I'm never playing here again." He's like, "Are we too tame for?" He's like, "No, you're too fucking violent."
And yeah, both Bob and Steve take that as like a point of pride.
Yeah,
where it's like we out-punked the source of punk. It's like we did it American style. Which I think leads us to the scene that you were talking about that you felt could have been excised from the movie.
Yeah, so we mentioned Hugo Stieglitz. I feel like this is just better for listeners because they've more likely seen Inglourious Bastards than they would remembering this guy's face, or this guy's name.
I only know of 2 other movies. Well, 3. Atomic Blonde.
Yep.
Driven, the Stallone movie about the... Oh, it's not very good, but it had one of the best trailer songs I've ever heard, because the lyrics consisted of, "We're going too fast, we're going too fast, we're going too fast."
He's not in a lot of good stuff.
And then I think my friend told me he was in a movie about the Red Baron that was pretty good. I think it's a German movie. Anyway,
yeah, he's a German
This
actor.
character is East German, and he's their drug dealer.
Yeah.
He provides them with pot and acid. And as we said, he's a little older than everyone else. And from a visual standpoint, he stands out because he's very plain. Like, he just looks like a normal dude. And I guess the problem with him is that if you want to buy drugs from him, you have to hang out with him. And if you hang out with him, he's obsessed with buying products and showing them off.
Yeah.
So you have to put up with him showing you all the shit he just bought. So we get like a minutes long montage of him showing them like his new shower head, his couch, his TV. He just got a laser disc.
Laser disc. He shows them all this stuff, and then he's also paranoid. So apparently his entire immediate family died in a plane crash, and he was the only one that survived. So he's wealthy from that. I guess he got life insurance money for that. So he doesn't really do much. He just smokes pot and sells pot. And he kind of wigs out, and he misplaces some weed, and he's just like, he has a gun, and he's like, did you guys steal my weed? And they're like, "No, man, we didn't take it." Like, it's really uncomfortable. And this actually brings up something I wanted to mention to you, because you're not a pot smoker or anything like that. This was how you bought pot in high school. It was like and Tom Segura has an entire bit about it that's hilarious. Like, you went in, you like almost died just to go get weed, or you went to strangers. I've been to a few strangers' places where I'm like, we have to go, and they're like, no, we're gonna chill for a little bit and smoke. I'm like, I want to be anywhere but here right now. Like, I would gladly get arrested just to be out of this guy's house.
It's Alfred Molina's house from Boogie Nights.
Not kidding. I've
been there. Obviously, I wasn't the one buying the stuff, but I was in the room.
Oof.
And it's like, whoa.
Can we go, please? Please, can we just legalize it? Legalize it.
For the love of God, children are in danger.
Oh, man.
Got little Chinese guys throwing firecrackers.
Ugh. Yeah, because if you go to some place where you can buy weed, but the guy also sells meth, like, you want some meth? Like, nope, and I don't think I'm coming back here. Thank you.
It's like, Mommy, why is Dad crying? It's like, well, every time Sister Christian comes on, he just, he needs a moment.
He freaks out.
A motorhead.
God, that scene with Tom Jane is so good in that scene. I love that.
When he can't hear him. when he has to repeat himself.
Yeah, he's so scared. Yeah. But yeah, so he freaks out, and finally they're like, you misplaced it. It's like right over here. Or he's like, or we smoked it, or you sold it, and they basically bring him back down. It's really uncomfortable.
So the only reason I feel the scene needs to be in the movie is just because it's well acted and well executed. It doesn't contribute much at all. In fact, his character doesn't contribute much, but this whole sequence felt very Tarantino-esque. The scene in the kitchen when he pulls out it's a 44 fucking Magnum.
Yeah, it's Lucille.
Like a long barrel. It's like a 6-inch barrel big revolver. Dirty Harry gun.
Yeah.
He's in the kitchen with Matthew Lillard, and this is all delivered in one take.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a couple minutes long, and it's just his monologue about the plane crash and what it felt like to watch his parents die. And I guess he's mad at his dad because his dad's body wasn't recovered, and he wanted to tell his dad he was a liar for saying we're going to be okay. It's kind of funny because I just watched the Netflix Iron Fist show.
Oh, you got Netflix?
No. Oh. I got a bootleg Blu-ray on eBay.
No, you didn't. You didn't get a bootleg Blu-ray on
I
eBay.
got a official Marvel/ABC Blu-ray printed in the good old US of A.
Hell yeah, that's what I thought you said.
Yeah, I bought it at Walmart. Anyway, I watched that, and one of the biggest flaws in that whole series, which is not very good, the reviews were right, is they have a
trust the reviews when it comes to Netflix stuff. Trust the reviews.
Trust the reviews. For the love of God.
Trust the reviews.
One of the biggest problems with that show, though, is they really seriously violate that show don't tell rule when it comes to filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
And so many scenes are just people telling us about cool things that they did and telling us about traumatic events without showing us any visual element of it.
Yeah.
And this speech happens in Iron Fist.
Oh, really?
But it's done very poorly. Like this exact speech, like a guy recounting the tale of being in a plane crash and watching his parents die. And to see those side by side, I was like, one of these is much better than the other. Well, good job, Hugo Stieglitz.
I took this as kind of a coming of age. I think this was one of the first moments that Steve-O he's kind of thinking back to. He's surrounded himself with people, like you said, who are misfits, and there's comfort in that. And you feel like you're doing the right thing, you're doing well, and then you start losing those people one at a time, like those people that you held dear. And I think this was one of the instances where he's like, maybe this guy's kind of off. Maybe he's not as cool or as quirky as I thought. Like that's a serious moment. Like he's threatening them a little bit with physical violence, intimidating them with physical violence.
Said, the progression of his character growth happens in very small steps.
Yeah.
Where you get little hints here and there that he's growing and he's changing, but he's resistant to the idea of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like going with the flow. Because yeah, even when he's listening to Bob talk at him on the college campus, like he has that air about him of like, I know better than this guy.
Yeah.
Like I know better than Bob. Why am I listening to Bob? But he's still like Bob's, heterosexual life partner.
Yeah.
Jay. But yeah, the scene concludes with Mark shooting at Bob and then apologizing and insisting that his apology is good enough. And then he just kind of says, I say we go out and steal a car, which they do. And then they attempt to dump the car in the Great Salt Lake, and because the salt content of the water won't sink, and end scene.
I thought that was kind of funny. He's like, why won't it sink? And he's like, it's because it's super salty, man. It's like, why didn't you mention this before?
Yeah, and then in true late 90s fashion, we seg from one party to another party. Man, like, filmmakers love party scenes. Like,
well, I mean, you can have a lot of people in the shot, and I'm like, just look at each other. Do not look at the camera. Just stay there.
I think actors really love party scenes too, because I've actually been in a party scene in a, like, not a short film, but just a short video.
Uh-huh.
And to see the actors doing their thing while the camera crew maneuvered through the building was really something.
Okay.
Like, it kind of explained to me, I guess, it informed me what acting actually can be. Where it's like there was no script; these were just people who were told to be a character, and for the next 10 minutes, just do that. And then there's certain marks that you need to hit when the camera comes to you, and you get like a hand signal. But other than that, I had to like circulate and just be a character with a room full of characters, and it was really interesting. And I just want to say there's a part here, and this is when Steve-O starts formally introducing everyone to us.
Yeah.
I think this is when he's drunk and is like spelling it out who everyone is, half an hour after we've already met most of them.
Yeah.
John the Mod, by the way, is Hey Miguel
Yeah.
from Independence Day. He has this weird little moment where he just like looks at Steve-O and says Gandhi, because I guess the idea is he plays peacemaker between the mods and the punks by providing them with drugs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. He's like in the middle ground.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we meet a couple other characters there. I can't remember her name, but it's the underage gal, the
Jennifer,
17-year-old.
I think it is, yeah.
Whose brother comes into play a little later, but both of them are kind of barely connected to the story.
Yeah,
her introduction was fun. I liked what Steve had to say about her.
Yeah, carnivore. Yeah. So yeah, the underage girl Jennifer, she comes along a little bit later, and it's a part of his personal growth. He was mentioning that she's a carnivore unless she has her meds, then she's fine. If she doesn't have her meds, I'm assuming she has ADHD, something like that. She's very manic later.
I feel like she has something maybe a little more severe than that,
because
we do meet her later when she's off her meds, and he compares her to Ophelia, which is not something you should compare anyone to. Anyone in a healthy state of mind, anyway.
So now we were introduced to Ricky, I do believe.
Oh,
is that his name?
Ricky?
Is that his name? The tall guy.
Who's?
Is that
Ricky? Oh, the guy that. Oh, yes.
Eddie. I'm sorry, Eddie.
Everyone thinks is gay.
Yes, Eddie. Sorry,
which brings us to the scene that you mentioned, the convenience store sequence.
Well, the reason why Eddie hangs out with him is because he's a bit of a Lothario, but everyone thinks he's gay. So he's actually mentions he's gotten his ass kicked by Hicks because they think he's gay. So just by being associated with possibly being gay, he's a bit of an outcast amongst the rest of the...
Yeah, he fits in with this group.
Yeah. But yes, this is my favorite comedic part of the movie is where they go... They mentioned...
Just before that, though, when they're in the car together.
Mm-hmm.
So what leads to this this aside is Matthew Lillard explaining to us how one purchases alcohol in Salt Lake City.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say.
I really enjoyed this little sequence here.
Go for it.
Where basically he talks direct to camera and he explains to us, and the music suddenly changes here, as does the lighting, to like tip us off that this is him breaking the fourth wall, and like he's no longer at the party. He's talking to us now, and he's explaining to us that beer can only contain like 3% alcohol in Utah.
You can't in Salt Lake City
Salt Lake City.
Maybe it is in Utah that they can't get it. They had to go to Wyoming, I think.
See, I'm not very well traveled, so like details like this, especially about alcohol, which is something I know nothing about. So like stuff like this is really interesting and informative for me.
Yeah.
So to learn that the alcohol content of beer in Salt Lake City is less than the rest of the country, and the only alternative is to go to the state-run liquor store. The employees that work there are cops, and we get a little scene where while they're buying liquor from one of these cops, he just looks them up and down, and just from their appearance, he labels them as troublemakers, and he sends a patrol car to like follow them basically, and they get pulled over, and one of the God damn it, Bob.
Yeah.
one of the cops like tries to instigate something verbally, and Bob of course shoves him and gives him license to do whatever after that.
He calls him something. I think he may be a gay slur. I think
I don't even think it was that. I think he just said, "Do you want some?"
He's like, "You want to hit me?" And then Bob just is like, "Fuck yeah, I do."
And if I was Steve, I'd just be like, "God damn it, Bob!" Like, and over this, we get some more like law student rhetoric going over this, where Steve-O is recounting this tale, and he's also adding to it that, I know the law well enough to know that we were completely fine. They had no grounds to pull us over just based on our appearance because we didn't actually do anything.
Yeah.
And again, it like points to the fact that, Steve-O, you look like a punk, but you're kind of a smart guy, and you're probably more interested in the law than you'd think.
Yeah.
But the thing I wanted to mention about the car ride to the convenience store, so they're headed to Wyoming to get better beer, to get better booze. Eddie is driving, and is he one of the mods?
I don't think he is. I mean, he seems like he's his own. He's an independent. Like, he just kind of does his own thing. I think he's like more interested in women, so he kind of hangs out with them a little bit. For the most part, he's going to different ladies' houses. That's his schedule. He pencils in friend time like one Saturday a month. If I can't get any tonight, I'll hang out with you guys. But other than that,
I know dudes I'll see you when I see you.
I know fellas like this. Like, yeah, I'm not hanging out. I got something else going on.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
But
that's cool.
While he's driving, he's basically talking about what we were all just talking about how a lot of people think he's gay, but he's not. And it doesn't bother him as much as you'd expect. But there's a line in here where they're listening to some sort of punk music, and Bob is sitting in the back seat, and he says, "This music is for posers." And Eddie retorts, "I think you're a fag." And then Bob retorts, "Well, fuck you." And then to cap things off, though, it's kind of beautiful. Steve-O says, "Fuck yourself, you'll get more pussy." It's just like, yep, that's a young man conversation right there.
Very much.
Highly intellectual stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, how about you walk us through the convenience store sequence, because it sounds like it resonated with you.
So they go to this convenience store, and it is a gas station in bumfuck Egypt. Like, it is in the middle of nowhere. And they walk in looking like they look Travis Bickle, Steve-O with his blue hair, and Eddie's pretty normal looking guy, a little younger and hip, but they go in, and the old man behind the counter, he's old as hell, and from Wyoming, in rural Wyoming's like, "Oh, you boys must have escaped from the asylum over there. Like, we need to..."
His actual first phrase is, "What the hell are you?" Not who, what.
He said, "We need to call the cops to get you back," and I think it's Bob who's just like, "No, we're from England. We're musicians," and he's not even doing an accent. He's just doing his Bob voice. Eddie does a little voice there, and they go to do their beer shopping. They get Mickey's. I believe Mickey's is a malt liquor. It's pretty not good. You can get it at 7-Eleven for a handshake, pretty much. It's not expensive.
A handshake and a smile.
A handshake and a smile will get you a case of Mickey's. And they're getting the beer, and then there's a couple having a conversation like, this is definitely the end times. Now, I've been hearing this for a long time. I've been hearing it's end times since I was a kid. Like, oh, it's end times every year. End times. It hadn't happened. But they're like, there's never been so much evil in the world as there is now. And Bob says, like, well, what about Nazis? And they're like, I don't think Nazis are evil. They're more just a gathering of people. And Steve-O's reaction to this, he's about to lose his fucking mind, Bob's about to lose his mind, and like they can tell, like they've struck a chord here, like, oh shit.
Yeah.
and then they start referencing some stuff from the Bible. This resonated with me because I've had to deal with these people my entire life, and I love how they react to these people. So in the background, you might not notice that the shop owner has noticed that these people are all talking to each other. So he's just kind of standing in the background to see what's going to happen. And they're like, yes, the Antichrist is going to come, and he's going to bear the symbol of the beast or whatever, 666. Yeah, and the mark of the beast. And they all kind of like, they perk up a little bit. Steve-O, Eddie, and Steve-O and Bob. And Steve-O just starts like convulsing, doing some Matthew Lillard stuff, just and he's like, I am the devil, I am the Antichrist or whatever, and he pulls down his pants and he has 666 tattooed to his ass, which is pretty funny. This is pretty good, but the shop owner that was watching them in the background has a fucking shotgun. This is profiling. Profiling is wrong. And he starts chasing them with a shotgun. Steve-O, again, running with his pants around his ankles. They manage to not pay for the beer, by the way.
Yeah. I noticed that.
They get away with all the Mickeys. I think it's a really funny scene, but I think the thing that just does it for me is Bob's reaction to what they thought of Nazis.
Yeah, I love that. I love that comeback, though. I don't think of Nazis as Satanists. They're more just a gathering of people. What the fuck does that mean?
It was good. Yeah, they. Now, once we get back, I think this is where things aren't going in a downward spiral, but this is kind of where Steve-O's starting to see like more and more that this lifestyle is not going to be working out. So where do we go from here after the store?
So immediately after the store is the Nazi beating sequence that you mentioned. Yeah, it's just a very quick scene. Nazis do come up at least one more time in the movie, but it's only in a montage. But
interesting, real quick. You mentioned one of the girls in here. I can't. Who was Brandy? Do you remember who Brandy was? Oh, Brandy was one of the mod girls. She's the mod girl that gives Bob the pills at one point.
No, that's a different girl.
Who's Brandy?
Brandy is the girl that Trish introduces to Steve.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry, you're right. She is actually in a movie I've seen with Ryan Gosling called The Believer, where he is a Jewish neo-Nazi. Yeah, right?
Okay.
So she's been in 2 Nazi movies. There you go. Go ahead.
Sorry, I have to collect myself. So yeah, we just get a brief sequence where Steve-O is narrating. We see a couple of guys in full-on Nazi regalia, heads shorn, patrolling the streets of Salt Lake City. And apparently there's a very small neo-Nazi movement there.
Yeah. And
Steve-O and the other punks don't like him. So we just get a scene where Steve-O and Bob jump some Nazis. And that's kind of the end of it.
Yeah.
But if I remember right, we cut back to the party. And I happen to notice it's delivered mostly in the background, but it's basically Trish and Bob. I don't know if Trish is like hopped up on shit, but she is just spouting
nonsense.
Poetic nonsense.
Yeah.
And he's all about it.
She's Jim Morrison-ing Bob, basically. She's the Jim Morrison.
She has hypnotized Bob with her bullshit. One of the quotes I caught was, "You exist in a world of dreams, Bob." It's like, okay. Yeah, my note here says, fucking weirdos.
Yeah.
And then the party gets crashed by some rednecks.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We get a cute little editing moment where... Again, how many of these fucking movies are you going to make me watch where the Foot Clan charges in on a party or something?
Every single movie.
Every single movie has to have a Foot Clan attack.
Yeah.
So, there's a staircase, and there's a whole crowd of guys in flannel running up the stairs, and then we do a freeze frame, and there's like an on-screen title with an arrow pointing at them that says Rednecks.
Yeah.
Just in case you didn't know. And then we get a really interesting, like, montage of Steve-O talking about the concept of fighting and
this is what
it's like existential bullshit, but it all has weight to it, and it's definitely well considered. It's very interesting to listen to. The one big thing that I liked is that it concludes with throwing all of that philosophy out the window. Like all that philosophizing gets thrown right out the window, where he's basically talking about the concept of fighting being an act of standing for an institution or a system of some sort. So like defending yourself, I guess, is defending what you are as a person and what you represent, and therefore him as an anarchist is paradoxical to fighting. It's like I shouldn't be fighting because I shouldn't enjoy fighting, because in the act of fighting I'm representing a system, and anarchy is supposed to represent like a dismissal of systems. But then, in talking all this out to himself, he comes to the conclusion that wait, everything's bullshit. Like, I would look it up if you're into that kind of thing, because it is kind of interesting to hear him ramble about.
So yeah, where do we go? Go for it.
I think this is where Mark, our German friend, leaves the film, and this is like the first step towards adulthood for our Steve-O and Bob. Is Trish, like I said, she's a business owner. She owns like a bong shop or something, and Bob's really into that. And we've seen over the course of a few scenes here that Bob is starting to really dig her. Like he's really attached, and you can tell Steve-O's a little off-put by it, where he's like, "You're too attached to this lady. Like, why are you so happy?" And then Mark just randomly shows up and says, "Hey guys, I'm leaving town. Bye." And he exits the film by saying "fuck you." But then the freeze frame they chose for him to say goodbye was perfect.
Yeah,
because it's him making this like
the
goofy.
The face.
It's perfect. Like,
and then he dies in a plane crash, the way he was supposed to, apparently. So I think this is where Bob is gonna hang out with Trish. So Steve-O meets up with Sandy, and they bump into Devon Sawa.
Oh, right before that though, another good scene because it has Chris McDonald in it. Steve-O goes off on his own, and a Porsche pulls up next to him, and it's his dad, and he's honking at him, and he hops in the car, and basically this is a reiteration of Chris McDonald saying like, "Hey, so I got you into Harvard. You gonna go?" And I love the pacing of how he delivers this line. He's like, "You have been invited to attend Harvard Law School." Snap. Yeah.
Well, did Steve-O take the LSAT? Because his dad can't forge the LSAT.
I was about to say, I don't think it works that way, Dad.
It doesn't work that way.
Sure. And this is where it becomes very clear that Steve-O is on the precipice of a great change in his life, but he's just not ready for it, because the back and forth between him and his dad is them trying to out-lawyer each other, basically.
Yeah.
Where his dad's coming at him with reason and facts, and the son is retorting in kind, like he's throwing it right back at him, but it's all just like college age bullshit.
Yeah.
It's just like I'm actively finding ways to tear down what you're throwing at me because I'm just not ready to embrace it.
Yeah.
But at one point he accuses his father of being a Nazi, and his dad comes back with, "I'm Jewish, Steve. How could I be a Nazi?" And then we meet Devon Sawa.
Yeah, so Devon Sawa, as we learned before, has taken a lifetime's worth of acid hits all in one. And he... Yeah, no, it is him who says it. Yeah, try to get a job. It's too hard. He's begging, and he doesn't even recognize Steve-O and Sandy at first. And they're like, "Oh my gosh, what have you been doing?" He's like, "Well, after my mom called the cops on me, they put me in like a loony bin for a bit, and then they let me out." And then he goes into what looks like a Gap or like ladies clothing store, and he just stands there in his same clothes. Like, he looks like he's got on like the parachute pants too, doesn't he?
He's got parachute pants and like a tattered hoodie that says "fuck you" on it.
Yeah.
It's like handwritten in like crayon or something.
He just stands there and the lady's not paying attention. He's like, hey, and kind of just asks for a job, and she's like, do you have retail experience? He's like, no, I need the job to get the retail experience, which is the struggle of college graduates. I need the job, but I don't have the experience. And then she's like, have you ever worked in a ladies' clothing store? He's like, why would I want to work in a ladies' clothing store? Like, it's like, you can tell that he's just lost it. And he's sitting there talking to Steve-O, and I think this is the big one. This is what that really kind of hurt him, and he gives him $1, and he just kind of walks away. He's like, I feel like I should have done something, but I didn't. He's like, I went and tripped acid in the park with Trish, or with Sandy instead. Now, this is drugs 101. When you're going to ingest a hallucinogen, acid, mushrooms, you need to be in a good headspace. Like, you need to be not in a stressful time of your life. Like, if you're in law school or med school, you're like, I'm going to drop acid. Oh, no. This is a terrible idea. Maybe once you get out, try it. So they drop acid, and I like this. I like the editing in this sequence.
I did too.
I've never done acid, but I could see this making sense. Like, you're just missing frames of time. Like, how the fuck? Like, how did I get over here? Need editing, and he's not having a good trip. Like, he's not.
No. And the Moonlight Sonata is playing over this. This is very much the low point in his arc, and there's a lot of repetition. And this is where, like, it started to become very clear that this Sandy character is very toxic. Mm-hmm. Because I know they're both on drugs, but her mind keeps going to the concept of death and the apocalypse, and it's kind of like a nihilistic philosophy, I guess, where it's like everything's going to end soon anyway, so nothing matters.
Yeah.
I very few things in this world irritate me more than people that have that mindset, because it's like when you're playing on the playground and you're playing cops and robbers and you're going bang 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 bang, and then the one asshole goes boom, and you're like, what the hell was that? It's like, I'm Superman, bullets don't work on me.
Fuck you, you just got shot. Lay down.
Yeah. Like, fuck you, I got you, you're dead. Go touch the monkey bars. You gotta. Yeah. That's how you come back to life, asshole.
Yeah, she's a nihilist.
It's not even that inconvenient. It takes 10 seconds. What the fuck?
Her pinky toe is going to be delivered to Mr. Lebowski before long. Yeah, she's
Sandy.
What does she say specifically to him? Like, when the Terminator 2 explosion happens in the background when she's talking, she says something is
beauty's the end, Steve-O.
Beauty is the end. Yeah.
And that looked like it actually was, like, lifted directly from Terminator 2.
It looks exactly like it's from Terminator 2.
It looks like the angle and everything looked almost exactly the same.
Maybe somebody can make a cut of that, like her talking and then the explosion and then Sarah Connor like shaking on the fence. That'd be kind of funny.
You just hear the fence rattling in the background. Yeah, she keeps going on and about this town is dead. Maybe we're dead. That'd be nice. And yeah, Steve-O's not in a good place right now.
I think this is where Bob has just in passing mentions they're hanging out together alone in their apartment, and Bob's like, man, like, I was talking to Trish, I'm like, Salt Lake City's not that bad. And he's like, Bob is finding some stability and some comfort in his life in Trish, so he's coming to terms with, like, maybe this place isn't so bad. Like, I don't have as dim of an outlook. And this is a tough scene. Like, Steve-O snaps on him, and he basically just tells him, like, I'm not going to be your friend if you ever say anything like that again. Like,
this is where the poser talk comes back into the story, where this is basically Steve-O calling out Bob and saying, you're becoming one of them. You're in the act of becoming one of them, you will have transitioned from being a true punk to a poser.
It's aggressive.
It's because you're turning your back on that which came before, where it's like your self-definition is changing, therefore you're betraying yourself in some fashion.
Yeah.
It's a way of looking at it. It's grossly inaccurate and unhealthy, but I understand where the character was coming from, where it's like your friend's outgrowing you, and it feels like being abandoned. He's like, oh, you're becoming one of them, man.
Yeah, I know. I feel like with my friends from back home, I might have been the the Bob, maybe I'm the one that grew up. Yeah.
I think we all have a friend like that. That's like it seems like they're caught in a moment in time, kind of.
Yeah, and they're still there.
Yeah. I think we transition to another party, and we actually get a really cute transition here where it's very stage-like. So Steve-O is just like hanging out with Bob and Trish, and then the lighting changes very drastically, and he steps into the next room, and all of a sudden we're in a completely different location.
This is Chris's.
It's all done in camera, and it's very cool looking. And this is where we get to see that gal off her meds.
Yeah.
And she is batshit crazy.
Yeah, she looks completely different. I think she was wearing a wig when she was at that party.
Yeah, she had like a red wig on, and here she looks very natural. She's in a white gown. She's covered in sweat. And
yeah.
Just is not healthy. But the reason we're here at this location is because Steve-O wants to tell us a story about when he was hanging out with her older brother in the basement of that house.
Yeah, they're all just like
Chris, and that scene was weird.
Yeah, they're all pothead philosophers. This is a weird scene where they're having just a conversation. I've definitely been to parties like this. I've been to the ones where it's just people drinking and it's a pretty good time. Other times where shit pops off. And I've been to these kind of gatherings where there's a few people hanging out in there, but this is more of a sit down. Like, we're kind of just hanging out doing stuff, and he's having a conversation with Chris, and their older sister, is just kind of talking to herself, lifting her glasses up and down, up and down. She's messing with the camera. As their conversation is going on, she's kind of like adding in, but it's not really audible. Like, you'll catch little things here and there. And then there's a neckbeard who is talking about how he's going to disprove that God exists by summoning the devil. He's like, I'm going to summon the devil at midnight. He's going to summon the devil at midnight to see that the beast won't show, and that proves that God doesn't exist. It's weird. But they're having a conversation. I think that Steve-O kind of comes to the realization that maybe his logic is flawed. Because I think Chris kind of counters with some good points for him.
So the idea here is that he and Chris, I guess, make a ritual out of debating about existential bullshit. So
yeah.
Steve-O's philosophy is nothing matters because everything's anarchy and chaos, whereas Chris's philosophy is that it's a cycle.
Mm-hmm.
And this is kind of the theme of the whole movie. That,
yeah.
Like, nothing stays the same, even chaos. Nothing remains in chaos forever. So his philosophy is that chaos reigns for a time, but even at a subatomic level, it finds order within itself, and then it goes back into chaos, and so on and so forth. So it sounds like these two have had this conversation many times. However, given what's happened in the past few days or whatever, Steve-O's more receptive to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like his guard is being loosened. And during all this, it's a very strange scene because I've been in the room for conversations like this.
Yeah.
Very seldom participated, but it does have that motorin kind of feel to it, where it's like I feel like something bad's about to happen, but I feel paralyzed and I feel like I shouldn't leave.
Yeah.
Like it's a weird feeling, and it has that vibe to it, especially because the lighting's like really red and just oppressive and weird. But as Steve-O is getting ready to leave the party, I think that's when he discovers Sandy getting down to some business with some other dude.
Well, I also want to mention that Chris has got like a Robert Smith from The Cure kind of look. Like, he's got big hair, and there's like some new wave looking fellas. One guy's kind of wearing makeup, the one that she's hooking up with. And I want to mention, you've seen Superbad, right?
I have.
Do you remember when the guys are doing coke and they're making Michael Cera sing?
No.
Oh my goodness.
Not really.
Well, this guy Chris is the guy doing coke in there.
Okay.
He's in that scene. He's also in There Will Be Blood, by the way.
Oh wow.
Yeah, small role. I don't think he talks, but yeah, he actually stops and he's like, I knew we weren't exclusive. Like, she wasn't like mine. But he's like, but something took over me. He's like, I snapped, and he beats the shit out of this guy, and well, she tells him to fuck off, basically.
That kick was really risky, man.
Yeah,
because she's laying on top of this guy, and his opening move is to kick this guy across the face.
Yeah,
it's like a couple millimeters to the left, you would have taken her head off too.
Yeah. She tells him, she's like, Steve-O, what? Get out of here! Like, I'm about to get fucked.
She calls him
a
pussy.
Yeah,
and basically, it shows that these two characters are in two different places right now. Steve-O's ideals, his philosophy is starting to change, whether he knows it or not. And what I wrote was that he's human. He can't help but value what he values, even though they're supposed to have this arrangement. And his narration in the sequence kind of points to him being disappointed in himself.
Because he sought order.
Yeah, because he did what one of them would do in those circumstances.
Yeah.
Because if he was a true anarchist punk, he would have just gone with the flow and been like, yeah, she's going to do what she's going to do, you know?
So yeah, now he's pretty butthurt. He's pretty bummed. So where do we go from here?
So we've lost, just to put a tally on things, we've lost Mark the German.
Yes. We've
lost Sandy. Bob is happy in a relationship and is slowly pulling away. Now Jason Segel announces, I'm a high school graduate. I'm going to Notre Dame to become a botanist.
So he's leaving the group.
Yeah, so that's three close connections down for the most part.
That'll get you too if you're fucking around in life. If you're just like dicking around and somebody younger than you is like, I'm gonna go do this. I'm like, fuck, I should have done something.
The way he presents it is, he's very resolute in what he's doing.
Mm.
Like, he doesn't sound like he's indecisive about it. He's just like, I'm going to go to Notre Dame. I'm going to become a botanist. The rainforest is dying. I want to do something about it.
I think this was important for Steve-O because you can see somebody who has, like an energy or they have, this energy they want to channel. Like, he's seeing somebody channeling this rage or energy into something productive, something that's beneficial. Yeah. Which is good.
It's a person with passion finding a way to direct that passion towards something that's useful rather than destructive.
Yeah. Or waste it.
Yeah. We get a really cool scene here. Like, even if no words were spoken here, just this location is so cool. They call it the Salt Flats.
Oh, yeah.
It's Trish and Bob with their van out at the Salt Flats with Steve-O. And this is when Brandy comes up. This is when Trish is like, hey, I want to introduce you to this gal, Brandy. And I'm actually currently in this situation in my life where I have friends trying to introduce me to gals because either my friends are married or they're in a very long-term relationship, and I don't know if they're tired of each other or what, but basically they need other couples to hang out with, so they're trying to manufacture them for themselves.
Yeah, the couples manufacturing. If you don't, we have one in our group right now, Nate. He's been off the girlfriend wagon for a while. We don't need him to be dating, but I don't need him to be dating. It's fine. I'm fine with my girlfriend.
Good. You're a good person.
I'm not much of a couples girlfriend kind of thing. I like having the third wheels. I like having either it's me and my girlfriend and one of my friends, or those two and me, like the couple and the friend. I think it's more fun that way, because when you try to fit too many people that don't really know each other well, the conversation's not there.
I don't know. Actually, one of my friends was pretty blunt about it, and he said, it's like, I need you to have a lady so that the lady can occupy my wife. It's like, so you and I can go play video games guilt-free.
Okay, gotcha. Okay.
Anyway, Trish is trying to do this for Steve-O.
Yeah.
Because Steve-O is, following the incident with Sandy, I guess he's depressed.
Yeah.
Like, visibly so. And she's like, I got this friend Sandy. And she's throwing a party at her parents' house. Before the party, though, I think is when we get introduced to Bob's dad.
Yeah.
That was sad.
I was going to say, I remember this now. So, yeah, Steve-O is learning about himself and the people that surround him, his cohort, and he's going. I think it's Bob's dad's birthday, so Bob's mom is out of the picture, and he's like, I gotta go just wish him happy birthday. I think he has a gift for him, maybe. Just to go say
it's wrapped in newspaper. I don't even know what it was, but he does have a gift for him.
So they go in, and we learn that Bob's dad is, I'm guessing, some kind of Vietnam veteran, he's had some kind of PTSD, and he's been just pouring booze on top of his illness. So he goes in, and he does not recognize Bob. The dad does not recognize Bob, and he just starts fucking shooting. And Bob has to run out of there. Like, they both have to run for their lives, basically. And Steve-O has a moment, like, he's like, I knew things weren't good with his dad, but he's like, but this was the first time I'm like, wow, like, Bob's really messed up.
Well, at this point, I think this is around the time when Bob lets on that he wants to marry Trish.
Mm-hmm.
No, that actually comes later. But point is, I think it's important that this is when he tries to reach out to his dad. And again, this is the first time that Steve-O's even met his dad. So clearly this is not an attempt that's made very often on Bob's part. He's mostly estranged from his dad. But the timing of him trying to reconnect with his dad and having a woman in his life, it seems like an attempt to grow, I guess.
Yeah.
It gets stepped on horribly. Really sad scene. It's very brief, but I always hate seeing parents and children have problems, even in movies. It just rubs me the wrong way. But the note that I wrote here is that Bob can't connect with his dad, and Steve-O won't connect with his dad.
That's a good point.
It shows a major difference between their circumstances that formulate their character. Mm-hmm. Where Bob clearly has problems and baggage that were forced upon him, whereas Matthew Lillard's character, it's more like he's pushing back, he's going against the grain, kind of. Like, he has very little reason to lash out at where he comes from, I guess.
Well, he's such a huge presence in this group, but he's also the most normal one, and this is another instance where he's seeing, like, maybe I'm not like these people almost.
Well, I've had that moment personally, actually, because I have a lot of friends, and I seem to gravitate towards these people. That I have a lot of artistically inclined friends who, part of the beauty of their character and some of the things that give them grief is the fact that their work pours out of them.
Yeah,
like they can't exist without doing their art or whatever it is that comes out of them. For me, it's like I'm artistically inclined. I mean, we're doing a podcast right now. This is a creative outlet for me.
Yeah.
However, I'm cognizant of the fact that it's never been as absolutely vital to my existence as it has been for some of my other friends. Where it's like I watch my friends and like they get like mentally ill if they don't create something every day. Whereas me, it's like I can sit around and watch movies all day or like dick around on the internet and be okay.
I've been there. It actually stressed me out a lot when I went to boot camp that I wasn't going to be able to play guitar. Like, I drew a lot when I was a kid, and then it turned into guitar, and I would get stressed out if I didn't play my guitar, like, just one day. So the first thing I did when I got to A school was I took my guitar from home and brought it back. But I had years of like being a psych major. Yeah, you tend to work out those problems, and that makes that outlet.
For me, it's like there's that existential dread of being concerned that it's like, am I really an artist or am I just forcing my square peg self through a round hole because it sounds right rather than it is right?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, Brandy's mustache is very distracting.
Thank you. I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to say it because she's very
transition.
She's very very pretty, and
she is.
I think she gets naked in. If I'm not mistaken, I think she gets naked in that movie with the Believer. She's solid. Okay,
I'll take your word for it. But her mustache is very distracting.
Yeah, but her mustache. This is the '90s, man. You could have that shit.
Yeah, but I mean, the way she's framed, it's like the camera's rammed right up into her upper lip.
She's a phoenix.
What?
She's Summer Phoenix.
she's one of the
A
Phoenix.
Phoenix. She's one of the Phoenix. I'm like, she's with Casey Affleck. What the fuck? And I'm like, oh, she's a Phoenix. Yeah.
Wow.
And I think she might be married to Casey Affleck. There you go. How about that?
Less wow.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan.
Yeah, we go from Bob's dad's encounter to Brandy's parents' house because they're having a party.
Yes.
And we get a cute moment where Matthew Lillard meets this Brandy person. He's introduced to her, and the framing, the way these two are framed, the camera is ramped right up into both of their faces, and
Very
his narration points to the fact that he's like enraptured with her when he first meets her. He still kind of feels weird about it, but he can't help but be like swept up in it. And we get this interesting conversation where the two of them are like, I guess, spending the entire party together. And she's just tearing him down. Like, she actually like spells it out to him that without saying the word, she's challenging his ideology and basically essentially calling him a poser.
Yeah.
And he takes it.
He's doing the high school or like young adult thing where he's just kind of like rolling his eyes and acting like what they're saying is stupid. He just the facial expressions here give it away. He's kind of at like check, and he's just like, I don't really know what to do here.
Like, well, you kind of got me there.
Yeah.
You want to make out?
Yeah. But Bob finishes off a pint of booze. He's been working on for a little bit. He gulps the rest of it down, and then he's got a really bad headache, which...
Yeah, he's got a Die Hard 3 John McClane headache going.
Yeah, he's not doing so well. So he goes... He's like, I got a headache, and one of the mod girls, one of the mod girlfriends, like, here, take this. Now, if you're ever at a party and you may not be a pill person, not that I am, I'm just saying, if you have anybody who's like, here, with this voice, here, take this, and they hand you a pill, don't take that pill. Look up what that pill is. A handful of pills. If anybody hands you any pill, look it up. Find out what it is if you want to take it, and then go from there. She hands
all the bad stuff that came out of this could have been prevented if Garth just showed up and said, "If you're gonna spew into this."
There's our Wayne's World for this episode.
We got a quota to maintain. There's got to be one every episode.
But he's like, he's like, I don't take medication. He's like, it's not medication, it's vitamins. He's like, oh, okay. So he pops them and then knocks it down with a little bit more booze. That's when he finishes the booze, and then he goes into the bathroom at this girl's house. And I mean, Bob's had a very stressful day today. It was a really big step he took, and it was spit right back in his face. So he takes it out on the bathroom. He has a thing with mirrors. He doesn't like looking at himself. It kind of gets this rage going.
Yeah, it kind of speaks to his character.
Yeah.
A little bit of self-loathing.
He beats the shit out of the... he's crazy drunk, and he beats the shit out of the bathroom, and Steve-O comes in. He's like, calm down, buddy. He starts to take him out of there. He asks if he can see Brandy again, and they're like... She's like, yeah, totally.
Actually, I really loved her response, because instantly, she says, no. and then she's like... Oh no, that would be sure.
Yeah,
sure. But her like from the hip response, no.
Well, I think it was how he worded it. He's like, "Do you mind if I see you again?" She's like, "No." Like, I mean, yeah, that's fine. Yeah,
I just love the the first thing I ever met. No.
So they're on their way back to. They're in the van. They're on the way back to the apartment. Steve-O's driving, and. This is where Bob has his like, I'm not my dad, man. He's like, I don't want to be my dad, and Steve-O's
marry Trish.
He's like, I want to marry Trish, and Steve-O's just kind of he's in a haze right now. I think there's so much has happened in the past 48 hours. He's just like, okay, man, whatever. He takes him home, sets him down on his bed, and then wakes up the next day, and he's like, come on, dude, let's get up, let's go get something to eat. And this was a tough scene. This is one of the reasons why I had you watch it, because I'm like, Matthew Lillard's actually channeling this obnoxious, over-the-top overacting that he does, but it actually serves the scene well, I think. I don't know if you want to talk about it.
So as it so happens, combination of a handful of Percodan and quite a bit of booze Bob did not make it through the night. He died in his sleep. Apparently he woke up just long enough to have his eyes open, though, when he died.
Yeah.
So Steve-O kicks him and tries to wake him up, and very quickly realizes, oh no, Bob is dead. And yeah, he has an emotional breakdown here, and he goes through like all the stages of grief all in like 30 seconds.
Yeah.
Very well acted scene. Definitely gave it his all. There's a couple of really good lines in here where, like I said, he goes through like all the stages of grief, and at one point he's like, oh my god, like, what am I going to do for a friend now?
Yeah,
you're my only friend. And so like he's mad at him, and then he mutters to himself like, I wasn't ready for this. Yeah. But I mean, all the building blocks we've been talking about, in like all the script elements in this movie, this is what you would call a catalyst. This would be the moment where his like path to adulthood it's galvanized. It's like, nope, now the momentum is taking over. We're going down this road whether we want to or not, because now Bob is dead, and Punk may as well died with him. Because I think when Jason Segel's character exits the film, he actually remarks that now there are only two punks in Salt Lake City, me and Bob.
Yeah.
So now it's like, it's only me carrying the torch, and I don't even believe in it anymore.
Yeah.
I think Punk is dead.
Yeah. I've been with somebody when a very sudden death happened, like something like this, and it's very emotional, and I think that might be, like, I thought that this was a good scene before, but after having experienced someone going through this, like, it's a very powerful scene, and I that building up to it, this was the main thing I wanted you to see, was that this one scene. I think it's very good.
Matthew Lillard can act, and a lot of it comes through physicality. Like, we haven't really mentioned it too much, but the way he uses his face and the way he enunciates his words is very calculated, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Where it's like he's putting performance behind everything. Like, subtlety is not his strong suit. But yeah, like his expression of grief, like we've talked about this in other episodes, it comes across as very physical. I think we talked about it with Michael Fassbender in The Counselor.
Yeah.
When something bad happens in that story, we get to see Michael Fassbender like express with his entire body like a feeling of sorrow and anguish, and Matthew Lillard doesn't nearly reach that level, but no. He definitely expresses, like, you can like see his neck like bowling, and like he crumbles onto the floor and he can't do anything. He's just upset.
I think the dialogue is what does it for me, like rewatching it.
Everything that he says in that scene is very concise and powerful.
Yeah. But yeah, so Bob's passed away, and the movie kind of sums up here. He shaves his head, and so does Trish. And they kind of they don't say anything to each other, but they kind of like, the gang is done, and Matthew Lillard's like, I'm gonna go to law school, and because I'm gonna fight the system from the inside. Basically, he's like, I'm gonna be an adult.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to know the system is to know how to tear it down.
Yeah.
I don't expect he's going to be tearing anything down. But,
no. He's gonna be going to Starbucks.
We get a flashback here to when they were 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And we get the origin of punk.
Yeah.
And the origin of their path to punkdom. It's a really cute scene where it's like two good-looking kids in a basement. I'm guessing, like, what, in the 70s or something.
Yeah, it looks like it.
And they have a D&D table set up with like the dice and the figurines and the books and everything. Apparently they've been playing for a while, because Bob is a level 7 wizard, I think.
I've wanted to play Dungeons and Dragons, not ironically. It looks like a lot of fun.
I don't know if I'd want to play, but I have a couple of friends that wanted me to record one of their sessions.
Oh, really?
Make like a podcast out of it, or make like a video out of it or something.
That'd be fun.
I keep trying to get it done, but these guys are not very organized.
Well, get them out of their mom's basement and get them organized.
I keep trying. But anyway, they're playing D&D, and they got Rush playing in the background.
Yeah.
It's kind of perfect. And Bob just runs down to the basement, and he basically recruits Steve to the punk movement. Like he takes the Rush out of the cassette player, he sticks in some sort of punk music, and he's like, "We're gonna do this now." It's like just as simple as that. We're gonna do this now.
I do not like that child actor who plays Bob. He's in Kazam with Shaquille O'Neal, and he's in Free Willy 2. He's Jesse's younger brother, Elvis. I can't stand that kid.
Damn, that's a hell of a filmography.
Yeah, right? I don't like that kid. Sorry. But yeah.
Yeah, basically what this scene spells out to us is that perpetual motion is a hell of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you start doing a thing and you put enough time into that thing, it becomes very hard to distance yourself from it because you become cognizant of the investment that you made into that.
Yeah.
It's like, I said this before, in changing, in growing beyond that, you're somehow betraying yourself, your self-history, like that which makes you. So it's like, we basically learned that all it took to get them into this philosophy was Bob putting in different music and saying, "We're doing this now."
I think it's the Ramones.
And they just kept it up for a decade.
Well, it's actually, now that I mention, I think it is the Ramones he plays at the end. It's that Blitzkrieg Bop, I think. And he's like, "What is this?"
No,
what is
I
it?
would have known that. Like, I know that one.
Or is it just like, was it just like a punk song? Was that what it was?
Just something.
Okay.
I would have recognized that one. But yeah, our closing image is, like you said, Steve-O, hair shorn, no longer dyed, wearing a suit, but he's got army boots on.
I didn't notice that.
It's a neat visual gag where it's like, it's still in him, you know.
Well, one does want a hint of color.
But yeah, that's SLC Punk.
Yeah. So I mean, what did you think overall? Would you ever give it a rewatch if you need a good cry? I've definitely cried watching this before. At the end.
I think I say this for a lot of movies that you have me catch up on. I don't think I would put it on again.
Mm-hmm.
But if it was on, I'd definitely watch it.
Gotcha.
I think I'd rather watch Boogie Nights because I mean, if I want to see party scenes and awkward drug-addled conversations, I think that's my go-to movie.
Well, I love the editing in that movie too. Just think about when they're doing all the coke, like when they're really into the coke. You're just sliding in, sliding back out, sliding.
Have you seen Magnolia?
No, I've heard good things.
Oh, you need to. Like,
really? Same director?
Yep. Paul
Okay.
Thomas Anderson. I think he's gone on record saying, "I don't think I'm going to make a better movie than that."
Really?
Yeah. In terms of like story and stuff, I think Boogie Nights is much more watchable. I can watch that movie any day.
I've seen it a few times.
I don't know what the fuck that says about me, but
it's fun.
The real
movie.
Magic of Magnolia is the editing, though.
Gotcha.
It is masterful editing.
I think you can rewatch Boogie Nights because it's Mark Wahlberg's like one actual really good movie.
Well, we have a movie that you want me to catch up on that you said he was good in.
I like it. Rockstar, man. It's not a great movie, but it's fun. It's a fun movie.
Well, we'll have to do Rockstar sometime because we've been talking about Boogie Nights a little too much this episode. It's got me thinking Marky Mark and
all right, well,
drugs.
That's all I had to say about that.
Alrighty. Well, thank you for joining us as we caught up on cinema.
Absolutely.
Until next time.
Yep.